I love cookies. I have to admit, I'm a cookie monster. Hey, this is Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's copywriting tips. I love cookies. Not necessarily, well, I like chocolate chip cookies and oatmeal cookies, but I'm talking about cookies in your browser. Analytics on websites is better than it has ever been. I remember the days where we'd download raw Apache logs from a website, parse them to determine original sources, whether or not somebody passed through a landing page, how many conversions were there based on a catalog, and we'd have to run it through Perl scripts, and that giant 20 gigabytes of analytics logs would be merged together, and then they would be processed and compiled, and then we'd make these reports and we'd give them to the business owners, and they'd be able to see the conversion rates for a catalog site. That then changed to have tools that did some of the parsing for us, like Webalizer, and it moved on. But this is not a history lesson about web analytics. I'm just trying to demonstrate to you that back in the 90s, when I was managing websites that had 1 million to 2 million visitors a day, we would take these just weeks to get a simple status report about where did customers come from, what kind of keywords contributed to sales, what kind of sources contributed to sales, what was the path the user went through. And while it got easier and easier, it seemed like the easier it gets, because today you can just use Google Analytics, or you can use the Adobe Marketing Suite. HubSpot's got something. It doesn't matter what tool you're using. Today you simply just look at the report. You can look at a real-time report. But it seems the easier it has gotten, the less knowledgeable those users have been on analytics. So I want to cover a very simple analytics methodology that's going to help you track your web conversions, but it's also going to help you work with clients better so that they can see the results of your campaigns. Because remember, everybody on Ad Briefings is using a direct response, very measurable marketing. Now, if you're one of those people who sell the concept of branding and you got a lot of smoke and mirrors because you're cheating your customers, I don't want you here. It's not about this. We're about direct response agencies, direct response copywriters who write copy that they want to have measured. In fact, some of us secretly get a kick out of knowing that our campaigns are better than other people's campaigns. But cookies helps us with that. Today, we can cookie a user, and on the back end, Google will figure out who they are, all the way to the point that we can now do behavioral modeling on individuals. And you might think, well, that's complex. I don't know how to do that, Justin. Well, let me ask you a question. Have you ever sat down and read a Choose Your Own Adventure book? One of those books that you open up and you read a chapter, then it asks you a question. And based on the response to the question, you go to a different page. It gives you a page number you follow, and that many people can read the same book and have different story experiences as they go through the book. That's a Choose Your Own Adventure book. Well, have you ever considered that your website could be set up as a Choose Your Own Adventure book? And I'll give you a simple, practical example. A visitor clicks on an ad at some unrelated site or some other site, but you've targeted that visitor by audience match or by cookie tracking or by a previous visit to your website. They click on an ad, they come to your site, that ad is on theme. The theme of the ad is the same theme as the landing page that they land on. Now, the landing page, you've removed all the distractions and you tell the story. You use a simple AIDA formula, attention, interest, desire, and action. And this action captures an email address. Well, now they've landed on the site and magically they've been tagged. There's some characteristics of that individual we're looking for. Now that they've entered their email address, they go into your marketing system. And so now that cookie is developed even more. So we have a better idea who they are and we have a specific way of interacting with them. Then you have a series of letters. Now, most people will have 4 emails and then, a sales offer or instantly go to a sales letter. And that's fine. That's fine. But we increase the value of what we know about that individual if we walk them through a Choose Your Own Adventure. So some models use a survey, and the name just it's not on the top of my head right now, but there's several different, like the Ask model, for example, asks a few Ryan Levesque, ask a few questions, and based on those questions, that will determine which sales letter they see or which path they go down. But ultimately, that landing page becomes a choice. Once you've read the message, your choice is to leave or to leave an email address. Now, of course, we want them to leave an email address to move forward, but we don't want everybody to leave an email address. So in the copy itself, we're going to flag the specific, who is this for? We're going to flag the problems they may be facing. We're going to flag some of the solutions they may have done in the past, build up that anxiety or fear or frustration so that they now want an action. They take the action, they land on a sales letter. The sales letter again then becomes the next chapter. They read the sales letter and they're constantly making a decision. Do I continue? Do I leave? Do I scroll down to the bottom of the page? That's why we have dual readership paths. We have headlines that bring a person through the copy, but ultimately you're going to ask them to make another decision. They make another decision to leave or buy. They buy and they move forward to the next, which might be an upsell. It might be your commerce cart. It could be a lot of different things. The key is that as they move through these paths, there are opportunities to collect additional information about these individuals that creates what's called a decision tree. This decision tree is the overlying framework of the decisions a individual gets to make. Now, if there are too many decisions when they show up on your site, like, for example, when they land on the landing page, if there's like a masthead and a bunch of flashing ads and stuff, it's going to be difficult for them to choose from A or B, leave or leave an email. When they land on your sales letter, if there's a bunch of distractions there, for example, maybe you have a bunch of video testimonials, but you haven't really trimmed the testimonials and it bores the individual. It doesn't provide them the opportunity to keep scrolling while they're listening to the audio because it requires a lot of visual interactions. Well, then you're going to have, again, these obstacles that come in play. So we want to have an A-B, read the letter or buy the product. Now, it might be ABC because you read the letter, buy the product, or leave the web page. But ultimately, each of these decisions along the tree, A, B, A, B, C, form a pattern that can be modeled. And we're not going to go into the statistical analytics required there, but simply you can decide, did the person take an A or a B? If they did, what percentage took A, what percentage took B? Of those who took A, how many took A or B? And you can kind of now have a percentage, which is often called a conversion rate. But a conversion rate alone has no value, no meaning. With that cookie, we can then match out demographics to know that males tend to become a lead and females tended not to become a lead. Females tended to buy, males tended not to buy. You can go right down your whole entire sales process and model this out. Now, some people make it more complex than it needs to be, but ultimately you can see what lead sources converted, what lead pages converted, what sales offers converted. But the selection process to get to the lead page, the selection process to get to the sales letter could use tools like surveys or quizzes or other types of engagements, even the links they're clicking on a page modeled into topics. We teach a topic testing method where you can actually determine which topics generate the most sales and which topics are or have the highest probability of generating a lower cost lead or a higher converting lead. But simply adding this other layer of context tells us more about the prospect, tells us more about their thinking, and then allows us to then behaviorally model the right sales offer. Not just put them on the right sales letter, but now the offer is tailored to their needs. Now, this is where things can get a little complex, and a lot of businesses just don't even bother doing it. However, it can be highly profitable. Let me give you an example. The sales letter we talked about before had very few options. It had, you could continue to read the letter, you could leave the page, or you can buy the product. Now, when you get to the offer itself, you're now in a new composition. They've decided they're going to consider this offer. So you have to have that micro agreement in there. You have to have that decision they're making. There must be a conscious effort. Now, in the mail order world, it was that checkbox. Yes, I'm interested in creating and keeping more profitable customers and transforming every business relationship into profits guaranteed. That's that confirmation. Once they make that confirmation, they're in the order form. And now the order form can have another set of decisions that segments the individuals, addresses their context or desire or their need or all those things together, and you can do it simply by a standard and a deluxe package. Now you might be thinking, Justin, well, that's basic. That was a long, winding road to get to something very basic. You should always offer a standard or deluxe package. Well, what do you put in that standard or deluxe package? If you behaviorally, through surveys and quizzes, determine that you have a segmentation on income, you may put your standard package being that minimum entry and your deluxe package being your maximum entry. If you have all affluent customers, you may make that standard package of a high ticket product, but your deluxe a value position. And the way you might do that is, for example, your standard package is just the basics. It's a you do it yourself type of thing, a DIY. But your deluxe package is a done for you. You skip the done with you. You go straight from, hey, you could do it yourself, or we could do everything for you. And I know it sounds like a lot, but really you're getting a lot of value here. So you pay full price to do it yourself, or you get this great package because this is what we're offering. Knowing the context of your buyers or your prospective buyers, you can then start modeling in the things that they need to make that decision at a better margin level for you. So as a copywriter or marketing professional, you can offer that paid consultation or a group Q&A call. So they can't meet with you specifically, individually, and pick your brain for free unless they attend the group call. Because attending the group call gives you permission to follow up with them. Attending the group call is a social benefit. And in fact, being able to ask their questions directly on a call where everybody's got to stand in line is kind of like the book signing. You're there to meet somebody important. It's a positioning element. So if they come onto the group call and they can ask their questions or submit their questions in advance, they are going to have to wait in line and ask you a question in order to get their answer. You're going to show them it's a demonstration of power. You're going to give them the answer right there using your clicks on a dial like Dan Kennedy talks about, or you're going to use a service matrix, for example. So if they ask a question about something you don't do, you actually can frame that into something you do and then take them to the next step. But my point being is if you know about your customer, you know the difference. Like, for example, if it turns out that the majority of your customers are really low end, you don't want to put them on a group call because they may not have enough information to ask good questions, and that might scare off higher end customers on the call. I know that all my customers are very high end because of how we do targeting. I use the group coaching call, but I require the submission of questions in advance because I may not be able to do a live call due to my schedule or my private clients or the volume of work that we're doing. You decide, but use the choose your own adventure approach. Use technology like cookies. I know there's all kinds of laws about cookies. I'm not a lawyer and I'm not going to go into those here. But your analytics platform is deceptively simple and very often not utilized the way it needs to be to know where did the sale come from. A lot of times it'll tell you where the sale came from, how much you've converted, but it gives you all gross numbers. It doesn't have your cost basis. It doesn't have your cost per leads. It doesn't have the context of the individuals who converted in a tangible way that you can sit down and develop a customer avatar and then from the avatar write that next piece of copy. I want to leave you with this. There is a self-selection methodology that happens in the Choose Your Own Adventure book. That book becomes unique for every reader who reads it. If you're designing your website and your copy this way, you can serve multiple audiences on the same website. And this is ideal when you're working with corporate customers. So a company like Cisco, for example, might have database customers, operating system customers, and equipment customers. Cisco doesn't supply databases, but they have tools that make database access faster. They may also have internet commerce on there as well. But those verticals are going to have different sets of copy. Even though you can exchange elements between those sets, they're going to have different sets of copy. They're going to have different decision makers, and they're going to have other elements that help that individual solve a specific problem that's not unique to the other group. So an internet company wants load balancers, a database company wants load balancers, but they want different types of load balancers with specific needs for both environments. You understanding this choose your own adventure, you understanding the analytics will allow you to bucket those segments of copy or those segments of content in order to get a better understanding of the composition of the visitors, get a better understanding of the composition of buyers, and get a better understanding of what media or mailing lists to work with, get a better understanding of things far beyond social or pay-per-click or, the things they're talking about right now. Pretty much everything that folks are talking about right now isn't going to increase sales as fast. It's going to increase the sales for the people selling the advertising, but not going to increase the sales for your customers or your bottom line. You need to drill down into the data, truly understand the buyers. This is database marketing in a lot of ways, but convey to your decision makers those elements that help them set up a basic decision tree. When someone lands on this page, what are the one or two choices that they have? They're never really going to have one choice, but you want to give them one or two choices, at most three choices to move forward. Jeff Paul used to talk about the purpose of a web page is to capture a lead or to make a sale. That's it. And if you follow that kind of model, you're going to spend less time dicking around on your website and more time generating leads and making sales. So again, I love cookies. I love the technology these days, but I try not to get caught up in it because ultimately there is how you use the technology that gets the results. And today you should know more than you've ever had before about details, just behavioral details of your customers. Let's use it. Let's transform that relationship, that interaction, into profits for both parties. You help them, they help you, and drive forward a next level of commerce for yourself, for your customers, and in general for your bottom line. Thanks for listening. I'm Justin Hitt with Ad Briefing's Copywriting Tips. The words you write on the page are like programming for the users. This choose your own adventure model is going to transform how you work. If you want more information on this model or other self-selection methods, if you want to talk about statistics or analytics, because a lot of agencies need to be working on these things, then click the link below or contact my office at www.adbriefings.co.uk. Thanks for listening.